All right, welcome everybody. I'm excited today because we're going to talk about how we converted a Tuff Shed into a multi-room professional recording studio. That's right. For many of you out there, the shed to studio conversion is what you want. It's like the holy grail of like, man, if I can just get this cheap shed built on my property in like a couple days, then I can build whatever I want on the inside. So let me show you how we did it, how we worked with Tuff Shed, what we learned along the way, and you guys are going to be blown away by the studio. Before we jump in, I do have a little freebie for you guys. Definitely check this out. This is my free soundproofing workshop. It is 30 minutes of in-depth teaching going over everything I know about soundproofing in one quick workshop. You can watch it right away at soundproofyourstudio.com/workshop. All right, without further ado, let's dive into this lesson on how to build a multi-room professional tracking facility inside of a Tuff Shed. All right, let's dive in. All right, I'm going to start by taking you guys through this really cool 3D rendering software I use called Enscape. It's a little bit on the purpley side because we have the backlighting right now, and I don't think we have the downlighting in here right now. But this is the live room. You walk in from this beautiful double door section there. You can see the light pouring in, and you walk into the live room. I think our gobos are not on at the moment. Let me see if I can. There's the gobos. Yeah, I needed those gobos in there. So we've even got a little amp closet down here. So this is a custom amp door. You open that door and there's literally an amp back in there. You can see our ventilation. You can see the surface mounted electrical. We've got the Redco panels here. You can see the backlighting up above. And then let's move over here. I'm going to fly through this wall here for a second. And then we go in here, and this is our control room. And let me show you the control room acoustic. So this is kind of cool. You can see it before the acoustics are on fully. We've got this custom cabinet back here, and this is where our quadratic diffuser is going to be. And then you've also got our custom soffit bass trapping to help with the tangential modes. And then our acoustic clouds by Alex McVeigh up there. Let me show you real quick. There we go. That's what I wanted to see. So this is a combination of custom work all in the back here. These are the GIK quadratic residue diffusers on the back wall. I like to put absorption behind them. We've got a beautiful window there. And then these guys actually open up to create some panels behind them. These open up to create shelving behind them for storage. So you can actually open these front traps here and get storage, which is really cool. And then I like the polycylindrical diffusers. We got the master bass traps here on the wall. Really cool setup. And then the Redco box is down here. So there's 24 channels. Might even be 48 channels, I think, total coming into this front room here. So all of this in a Tuff Shed, guys. Amazing. We have ventilation coming in through here. You can kind of see that. That's going to be covered up. And then there's another one that's over in the soffit there. ISO stored doors. I'm going to go through. My computer, by the way, is like making a lot of noise because we're running so much at one time. This is like pushing the computer to the limit, running all this 3D rendering software. But here's the drum ISO room. I love this drum ISO room. It's so cool. Just love the vibe of it. A custom soundproof window there. We've got our polycylindrical diffusers stacked on top of each other, ventilation points up there and up there so everyone can get fresh air in, and our Alex McVeigh acoustic clouds with built-in lights. Man, it just doesn't get any cooler than this. I'm telling you guys, it's gonna be a great sounding room. And he can put a big piano in there through the double doors here. People often ask me about double doors, and ISO Store makes them. You can put glass in them like that. So really cool stuff here, guys. And then it wouldn't be complete. I'm gonna fly through this wall. Boo! And we're just gonna fly into the you can see our baffle box system here. We don't have all the baffle boxes in here right now, but this is the like storage room area that's going to have all that. So let me now get out of this because my computer is like literally going to explode. And you can see the outside here of this project. So if I fly around, I can kind of zoom around. There's the access to the front. There's the access to that. It's built on a concrete slab, as you can see. And this is the Tuff Shed. Don't worry about this pink geometry. That's just from us designing. And we just, used scissor trusses and all sorts of fun things. So let me start to pull this apart so you guys can understand what's going on here. So I'm going to bring down my good old tags, And this is how we like to organize these things in SketchUp, which is just so crazy. But if we look at the roof here, let's start at the roof. So I want to take off just the shingles. We've got 2 layer, or right now it's just 1 layer with the shingles, and then the we did 3/4 inch plywood, 23/32 if you want to be really particular. And usually that combination of shingles and the 23/32 plywood is equivalent in weight to like 2 layers of 5/8 inch drywall. So that keeps us consistent there. And then what we did is we had spray foam underneath that, and I'm just going to take off the OSB. And so that would be all spray foamed. And then you can see that we specified scissor trusses. And this is really, really the important part for getting that vaulted ceiling, is these scissor trusses that came with Tuff Shed. And then to decouple everything, we got some wood blocking here. And then we've got my favorite, the Genie Clip RSTs, which you can see there, and the 7/8 inch furring channel. And then we designed this so that we can keep everything separated from room to room. So you notice there's a gap between the wall layers, the sheetboard layers. There's actually a gap which we fill with back rod and acoustic sealant, so sound can't transfer vibration wise from one room to the other via the ceiling. And this is something a lot of people don't think about, but we do it this way. This is directly between the double wall system in our room, which we'll get to in a second. And notice that even our channels don't connect, because we don't want any sound to transfer from one room to the other. So that's the level of detail we go into with this stuff that a lot of other designers probably don't even care about. So that's what's happening. And then at the top here, the other thing that's important to notice is that we put in backer rod and acoustic sealant. So there's actually this wall layer, ceiling layer is not actually touching our wall layer, which is another crazy thing most people don't think about. So we actually put that in the plans. It's kind of hard to see here in the SketchUp file, but it's just so wild just even looking at the design here. And then this would be filled with insulation as well, so you could probably do like an R30 insulation in the ceiling, something pretty heavy, plus the we like to do the spray foam so that the whole thing can be completely airtight, so there's no venting along the vent, no venting on the ridge. We're just spray foaming the pants off this thing and really just getting a completely airtight system on our ceiling, so that the whole thing works. Now I want to show you guys the HVAC system briefly here, because this is just crazy. It took me so long to figure this out, but eventually we ran our ventilation from here up into our roof system through the scissor trusses and then down into the control room on the other end. Do I want to do this again? Not necessarily, but it was a complex design decision. And then that pops down in, like I said, into our soffits here, which are then pushed through. So it's pretty cool. So now we've talked about the roof. I'm going to actually take the roof off, and I'm going to take off the ceiling, and we're going to kind of look at this thing from the top down. So we've got our control room over here, which is very cool. And then we've made a gigantic live room, which I just love. You know, full piano, full bands could play in here. We've got, like I said before, the acoustic paneling hung on the wall from Alex McVeigh Acoustics. Shout out to him as always. We've got GIK acoustics on the walls here. And then that amp box, which I'll show you guys in a little bit. We got the ISO, a regular door on the front, and then an ISO store door on the inside. So a double door to the outside, and then our custom double glass windows as well. And then over here is that amazing drum room. And you can see here, we put a little outlet in the ceiling so that you can then plug in your backlighting. We got mini splits in each room. So mini split, and then a mini split hidden kind of right there. And then this is ventilation. So ventilation is done by ERV unit right here, 210 CFM ERV unit, and that's going to all these different baffle boxes around here. Let me make sure I get all the HVAC baffle boxes in. Then what we got is our wall system. So I want to show you guys what's going on here. Mainly double walls all the way around. We got a 2x6 wall system on the outside and 2 layers of 5/8 inch drywall plus their siding. This is actually a really good point about Tuff Shed, is we did a fully custom design with them. This is why you can't just order any old shed, is I specified a lot of things on here that made it so that this Tuff Shed would work as a shell. Most people just order a shed and they don't realize that they need to add extra mass to the outside of the shed. And that's really what, screws up the whole project, is you have really nice interior walls, but your exterior walls weigh almost nothing, and so sound still gets out. So total waste of money if you do that wrong. So you don't want to do that. So we did like interior double walls here, 2 layers. We did the OSB first, then the drywall, so that it's really easy to hang panels wherever you want on the walls without having to find studs. That's always really nice. And we did that on the ceiling as well. So that gives you an overview of the entire project here. There's definitely a lot I want to show you in the plan section, so I might jump into that too. You might be wondering about the floor. Did we float the floor? Did we float separate floors? No. We're not that crazy. It's not necessary. We just have one big gigantic slab that they built this thing on. And again, Tuff Shed would pour the slab, build the entire exterior structure, and then we would come in and build the windows. And the doors would be existing. This door exists, that door exists, and we'd kind of tweak them. And then we'd build the interior sides here, so it's all ISO store doors with the glass, and over here as well. This like little, I'm gonna jump to the plans because this will be easier. So I'm gonna save this guy. Before we jump to the plans, I've got to show you guys these renders here. Super cool. So here we have the drum room. I love these renders because they really give you a sense of the space and what it could really look like. We got, all the channels over there. We've got the ventilation system coming in. So you get a real sense of the space. Headphones for the Ethernet right there. There's another one. Get a real feel for what it could feel like in there. The double doors, just going to be such a cool studio. And then if we look in the live room, you get a real sense of the space right there, which again, nothing beats like a 3D rendering to kind of give you a feel for what your final studio could look like. And the backlighting with the blue, which I always love, looks really great there. That's that acoustic cabinet over there, which is really fun. That we designed in, and then a beautiful control room. I just love the way this control room looks. Really well done, and it's got our typical soffits, which we like to do, and then some of the GIK acoustic paneling. Just gonna be a really beautiful room. You can see the handles there for where you can open up the doors and see inside, which I'll show you guys in the plans. And then just a couple more shots there. Just really. All right, so here's the set of plans, and this is just the very first page. So we can see how we've got this room broken up into these different sections here. You can see some of the dimensions here, which is helpful, 24 feet. It's a very long building, almost 50 feet long. So important to remember that this is a very large Tuff Shed. So keep that in mind first. I wanted to show this section here because this shows where we leave a perimeter around the ceiling and fill that with acoustic sealant and backer rod and acoustic, caulking. And this shows exactly where that it is to divide up our different rooms here. So I thought that's really interesting to see. And then we have some of these, more detailed diagrams that show something that is usually never done in construction. So like in these plans, we always have to find creative ways to show things that are never done in construction, so no one's used to seeing them. So there's no like typical, views to show how this is all put together. All right, I wanted to show this section view because it really is fun. It reminds me of like, I don't know, some cool architectural book that shows a cut through of a building. But this is our control room. This is our live room. This is our drum room here. And you can see the ventilation going through the attic spaces and then coming down into the soffits. The soffits are really just some of the Knopf Ecos insulation. Sometimes we'll add a little bit of rock wool in there, and then it's fabric. It's basically a big bass trap up in the upper corners of the studio. We can also see this north view section here, just showing the other side and how that fresh air intake comes in across. See our panels and everything like that as well. Just kind of another cool view to see. So this is the amp room design, which is probably one of the cooler things that we've worked on in Soundproof Your Studio, especially this one that goes through the wall here. This is a little box extension on the outside of the wall, and I usually never recommend hush frames, but for something this small, I think it's actually a fairly good use of them. We've had some trouble with them in the past, so I stopped using the hush frame rafts, but they are kind of cool. In the future, I might not use them as much, but this was just a design I had come up with that I kind of liked for the amp room, which allows for decoupling on the inside and a single wall around there, and then 2 layers of drywall on the outside to really just isolate this box, you know, through the wall. And you can kind of see how that was all done. And then we did a custom door here, which is really the crazy part. Now I wanted to show you guys the custom door here. So this is how we built this this miniature door. It's basically going to be this custom door leaf, which let me actually show you how this is made. So it's really made with mass loaded vinyl in the middle and then 2 MDF panels on either side and then a wood block there for the lock set. And, you know, it doesn't get any more wild and crazy than this. And then we have sort of wood veneer and edge banding around the side to make it look nicer if you want to go the extra mile. But it's rare that I like to do these because it's just so much extra work. But, you know, for this custom design, we wanted to do something special. And you can't buy a door like this anywhere in the marketplace. So if you guys are interested in stealing something like this for your own studio, you know, you could try this out. It's pretty cool. So I wanted to show a brief example of a window design here. Now this is super complicated to look at, but essentially we're looking at the window coming in from a side section view. So we have our exterior window here, there's the actual glass, and then the interior window here. For those of you who are super nerdy, you could pause the video here and try to figure everything out. But for the sake of time, I'm just going to explain briefly that, you know, the goal with the soundproof window is to have, I like to use 3/8 inch tempered glass on the outside and then 1/2 inch laminated glass on the inside. The bigger the air gap between your pieces of glass, the better. You don't want to have 3 pieces of glass, like triple layered glass or anything like that. You just want to have simply one mass, air, spring, mass, window. Mass, spring, mass. You'll hear me say that a lot. That's the key to sound isolation. And then how you build your window from there is not that big a deal. You just really want to make sure that the 2 parts of the window don't touch each other. So I like to leave a gap. We put some Knopf Ecos insulation in there and then cover it with fabric in between the gap. And you can put some desiccants hidden in there if you want. I've changed my window design over the years, but this is one of them that's been really pretty nice overall. So here's the electrical design, and you know, a lot of this stuff, it comes down to understanding your wiring to a really high level of accuracy. I've come to like the PowerPlay 16 or the Hearback system if you prefer a different company than Behringer. Either one's going to work great with the audio over Ethernet for your Hearback system, your headphones. Now, we also are running what's known as a company called Redco, and we're doing a custom set of XLR boxes through the walls here. And so we're showing the technician, you know, whoever's going to be doing the low voltage installation, exactly how everything's going to be wired and where it's going to be. And this is really important. This doesn't look anything like your typical residential electrical, and that's because studio design is very different than typical, you know, electrical in a residential house. So we do things differently here. We show more information than a typical electrician would need on a house, just because it's going to help them a lot. And we have our star grounding diagram there as well. Then we get into our HVAC diagrams, and again, this is where the baffle box craziness comes in. And having a mechanical room in a studio of this size is very smart. You know, can double as storage, but you really want to make sure that you have something like that in there. And this kind of shows, you know, a rough idea of how everything is going to be routed. And then if you come down here, you can see it from a plan view, which this shows how crazy all of this is as it goes into the studio. So if you're doing this yourself, you really want to think through, you know, this level of detail in terms of like, how is everything going to be connected, so you can show that to your HVAC installer or yourself or your contractor and really get an idea of what you're going to do with the airflow. Here you can see the different baffle boxes that we have. There's lots of creative ways we like to show these in general, showing just how these things are created inside of the wall structure and the design so that they know exactly what to use. We've got our ERV, you know, shown here, and the different mini splits and things like that. The next step here is really showing how to build the baffle boxes, and this gives you an idea, both visually and also with some basic plans for the contractor of how to actually build these baffle boxes with the rubber and, the insulation that goes inside of the baffle boxes. We need to make sure we have all that in there as well. So all of this we make sure to show in the plans and all the crucial information that's needed to make sure that everything stays soundproof and stays sound isolated, and it's all crazy. Trust me, HVAC is a bit of a headache. All right, this project, out of many of our projects, had probably some of the most acoustic panels of any project. So you can see here, we make a full, what they call a schedule, which shows every single type of acoustic panel and how many to buy and where to place them. That really helps our clients, when you're doing a big studio like this helps you understand exactly where to place them. It looks like a lot, but when you look at plans for a while, you start to realize, oh yeah, this really helps out a lot. We also have, exactly the distance for where to place all the panels for optimum acoustics in the room. Same with our reflected ceiling plan here with all the clouds that Alex McVeigh will build. I wanted to briefly show you guys the soffit example. So using, 1x2s, 1x4s, and 1x3s is how we usually build out these soffits here and give the contractor a general idea of what we're trying to do. Any builder can modify the plans, but we like to give them as much information as possible with how we want to build these. I've done examples like this with all the rock wool, but honestly, you could do it like this without the rock wool and just an air gap behind it. And I think it'll perform as good, if not about the same, as if you did more rock wool. So this will give you more of a chunky bass trap approach, where this will give you a bit more of an air gap to help with that. And if you want to save on cost and stuff like that, you can still do that if you want. It's up to you guys on your own design. We even have examples of how to build our gobos. These are custom gobos with our custom ratios of the wood paneling for diffusion on the side. So we like to do that as well. This I had to show you guys because this is so cool. I'm still working on different aspects of this for future projects, but having quadratic diffusion and then these cool bass trap cabinets where you can put microphones, different types of gear, headphones, cables, whatever you want in here. So you open it up and it's essentially just extra storage, but it's also doubling as a bass trap and looks really cool in the back of your room. So this is something that we've come up with at Soundproof Your Studio as a unique and interesting feature in our control rooms. And lastly, like to finish off our plans with those renders like I showed you guys before, so that the contractor and the client and everyone can get a visual representation of what we want the final presentation to look like. This is, I think, a really important part of design. It's often overlooked on, a simple set of plans, but these 3D renderings really get the point across to the client of what we're trying to do. And lastly, we do a full materials list here for everything that you need in the design. All right, so that was a lot for you guys who stuck around for the whole video. I know you're serious about building a proper home recording studio, and you can see all the crazy technical work we go through in these plans. And I hope it was helpful for just helping you plan your own project and getting a better scope of just like the level of detail that should go into a project before you pull out that first nail gun and start putting up some walls. If you're on this journey, again, I have these two options for you. For those of you who are a little bit further along, a little bit more committed to doing it, really right the first time and don't want to make crucial mistakes, I do those free soundproof clarity calls to make sure that you don't make those mistakes and that potentially we could work together and do something as amazing as the studio I just showed you. If that's someone like you, you can sign up for a free soundproof clarity call at soundproofyourstudio.com/step1, or just go to soundproofyourstudio.com and click on the I want some construction plans button. If you're not quite ready for that, no sweat. I totally get it. Or if you're very DIY, that's also okay. I'm here to help everybody. Just go to soundproofyourstudio.com/workshop and you can watch that free soundproofing workshop and get some information right away on how to soundproof properly. All right, I'm Wilson Harwood. I'm a studio designer and acoustician based in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm just here. I'm breaking the rules, guys. I'm giving everything away, sharing everything on the internet, and the whole goal is to just give, and in a small return, I get some work on the side that keeps this whole business going. So it's a beautiful process. I love helping you out, and I love hearing from you guys all over the world about building recording studios. It's just such a cool community that we've built here. All right, I'll see you all next week with more information on soundproofing and room acoustics.